till here, we studied excessive exploitation of nature by men and the role played by women to save and protect it. Women, in case of nature, always remain invisible. She is not counted. Her role is most often ignored. And in case of nature, we miss several things. For example, air pollution. When we are counting air pollution of a city, we rarely count air flights. For example, minimum 3,000 flights are flying overhead in Delhi. And these are jet flights, which means each time engine has to stop 3,000 times and start 3,000 times. And this way you can say in jet fuels that left behind while flying, we never count it in air pollution. And similar is the case of women. When there is kind of nature related things or nature related issues or effect or impact, women's are not counted. And this is the topic of our part 5 and here. But before we go to further, let's see the video how the role of women is most often ignored and what type of bad effects man can do to a nature. The evil that man can do is here in this video. One thing is we are talking more about climate change, but in this climate change, women are totally missing. And now you can say climate change is deemed not gender neutral as it increases the social inequalities with gender, sexuality, age, wealth, indignity, and race all determining factor in the vulnerability to climate change. The effects of climate change that disproportionately affect disadvantaged community, including those of color and low income and lower income. But overall, out of it, what we find, we have seen science, theories, scientific lab, so on, but one point was totally missing, that is nuclear testing. And we can think about what nuclear testing can do to the world. We have seen 1945, America dropped nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the people suffer for centuries, for decades. Even today, they are suffering. Overall, if we look, this climate change factor and nuclear test from 1945 to 1996, China has done 45 nuclear tests, UK 45, France 210, Soviet Union, or today you can also call it Russia, 715, and USA 1032. But the data of China is up and down, because somewhere it is showing 49 nuclear tests, but that is not the case. So let's move to some Indian data now. And worldwide, if you find that 2058 nuclear testing has done since 1945, and India has done 3 and Pakistan 2. Several times a point is put in our mind that if these nuclear testing are done in a remote area like Rajasthan, that is all sense, then its impact would be less. That is a myth. And now let's see sometime we are having this work, such kind of nuclear testing in a remote area like Rajasthan are harbinger of breast cancers. Sometimes it is believed like nuclear testing at remote place cause no harm, but that is wrong. And for it, we can go to the real life experience of Terry Tempest Williams, as she has recorded in her book, Refuse, an Unnatural History of Family and Place, that published in 1991. And it blamed American government for atomic testing for breast cancer of her family member. The book also examined the catastrophic effect on the Great Salt Lake as well as on the birds, both regional and migratory. Such kind of violence are called flow violence, and in it, the family that having breast cancer are transferred to another family members, and they suffer and dies with the same. And as Tempest opened the book with that, I write about nuclear test in refuge, the clan of one breasted women, with so many of the women in my family being diagnosed with breast cancer. Mastectomics led to one breasted women. I believe it is the result of nuclear fallout. And this is the real life story. And such kind of violence, or that breast cancer are transferred from one woman to another and continues to long time. And one of the most particular example you can find is famous heroine Angelina Jolie. She is also suffering from breast cancer, and now she removed her breast to avoid the death, and that remained task. And such kind of violence are called flow violence. And Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Bhopal gas tragedy, and Plachima, Coca-Cola are such kind of things that the future generation suffers due to them. And now the thing is that let's see the a bit opening of that a clan of one-breasted women. And just two lines from the opening: I belong to the clan of one-breasted women. My mother, my grandmothers, and my six aunts have had mastectomies. Seven are dead. The two who survive have just completed rounds of chemotherapy and radiation. But the thing is that how Terry Tempest Williams was able to speak. And its answer lies in the very opening of the chapter that we are having introduction. The Terry Tempest was educated in one of important University of Utah. And now she is professor of English in that university. And now what happened that if you are educated, you can explain your story to the world. But when you are uneducated, no one pays attention to you. And such remains the story of Indian women. And if in that case, we can find nature cannot also speak and represent itself. That is why both are exploited. And that is the thing that ecofeminists are saying: women and nature never speak. That is why they are humiliated more than anything else. And this clan of one-breasted women is perfect example of it. And now climate change, due to these things, as we have seen in video, how nature is destroyed, what it can lead. And it can lead to certain pregnancy issues that like premature birth, low birth rate, weight, also stillbirth, and effect on women's brain development and physical also. And these things force us to think why such things are happening, because we are changing our habit. We are going from natural to other kind of thing, home, outside, especially food, fast food and so on. Less experience, less connection with nature. Just imagine how many times in last 2 years you went on the top of your roof to see the sunset or sunrise. Answer is no. So our connection with nature is lost, and that is why such kind of things are happening. We rarely walk to nature, we rarely touch trees. And just one more question you have to ask yourself: how many trees you have at your home or your neighborhood or in your street? And answer would surely be zero. And without the connection of nature, such things are coming. And these things are related to pregnancy doesn't end here, and all result of nature's degradation. Fertility control. Man often try to establish his superiority. That is why he control everything, and fertility of women is one of its example. We have seen the cruelty of China that control its fertility. And 2 or 3 years earlier, there was a tax if you are producing more than one child. But now it is not, but for a long time it remains. And man control, similar way, man can also control land fertility. And there are different kind of things like NPK. And similar way, man also control fertility of women through abortion. And a man control nature by cutting and burning them for profit, and women to establish their supremacy. Different kind of pills and condoms are added tool in the fertility control and add pleasure for men, and its impact is often bad. And now in Uttarakhand, India, probes as no girl is born in 3 months in 132 village out of 500 village in 2019. And you can find this report in Al Jazeera news channel with the same heading. And what happens that man control this pregnancy in several ways. And how cruel man can be, you can see in the novel Herbert Asbury's Gang of New York. This novel is also adapted into a movie in which the butcher, William Bill Butcher Cutting, abort his own girlfriend, Jenny Everden, by his own knife with which he butchered. So this is because he want to establish his supremacy. He do not want to give his property to women, and secondly, he do not want any tension with that. That's why these things coming together, and forceful abortion is also part of it, and it badly impact women's body as seen in case of Jane Everett. These things are very negative in women's part. For example, if you cut a tree, then it impact nature as well as birds and some animals that takes place in its shade, but now they are homeless. Similarly, if you abort a child new young, then women two life are in danger. And in case of this abortion that is playing havoc in women's life, Indian minister says 2000 girls killed every day in India. It was a report in 2005, and it published in Time magazine. Later on, we have find that selective abortion in India could lead to 6 million fewer girls being born by 2013. And this news is published by the Guardian famous newspaper. And healthy and violent atmosphere is dangerous for mother, child, and nature. And we have find such kind of example in the famous novel Farewell to Arms, where mother and child died during cesarean delivery, both dies. And abortion is a kind of thing to control women, and the destruction of nature is same. You can cut a tree, you can cut a baby, and this is how you establish your supremacy. And nature and women are correlated, they are synonymous to one another. And eco-feminist present, they have similar qualities, like women have similar qualities like that of nature. Nature is also called mother, and women is also mother because of her nurturing, giving birth, and other activities or other qualities. And if you see such kind of thing in Linda Hogan's novel Power in 1988, portrays the father beat his daughter with the belt, and this beating of belt gives scar to her. And similar kind of scar can be seen outside when road roller passing on the green belt, and the green side is divided into two parts, leaving a pathway. And this is the thing like the belt and the nature's road roller. These things we have, but abortion are way to control women more like that. And it plays very bad in their life. And this thing like nature or abortion, breast cancer, and other disease, either it is habit of food, pregnancy, and other, that lead several disaster. But if you are nature, then nature can control each disaster in its own way. For example, if there is flood fire, the nature would recover from it very early or in 2 or 3 years. But if you cut the whole jungle, then it would take 70, 80 years to come on the earlier stage. That is why Amazon is not been able to recover from the 20th century disaster. Nearly 50% of Amazon is gone and it is not coming back. And such kind of thing, if I applied in women's like pregnancy, forceful pregnancy, abortion, and breast cancer and other disease, then they disturb women, especially their menstrual cycle, and increases mental illness also. uh, Unwanted and forceful pregnancy leads to reproductive system disorder, and the things that are added to it: heavy menstrual bleeding, prolonged menstrual period, pelvic pressure or pain, frequent urination and constipation, painful intercourse, and same things are that. Overall, you can say nature and women's life are similar, and man can destroy both nature as well as women's fertility, pregnancy, and their power in several ways. And you can say women's activity is restricted. They are forced to stick inside home, and kitchen is their new home. Housewife is the term denoted to them, even if the wife is educated. So these things how disturb women's life, and this is what we have this part. And last part is the next one, in which we will discuss the limitation of in which we will discuss limitation of ecofeminist term, and how this term is not universal in itself. And with this, let's move to next and final part.